PSA, ladies and gentlemen. Make sure to take your flu shots because I just spent the last 2 weeks fighting for my life. Yeah, I don't know what I actually caught, but it was definitely flu-like. Maybe I caught COVID and the flu at the same time and got a cold. I don't fucking know. I'm still recovering right now, but I was able to finally go to the theaters and, let's talk about this movie.
Oh, fuck.
Where do I start with this movie? It is just all over the place tonally, and I can tell that it was purposely made this way, but I don't know, maybe this movie just wasn't made for me because it just didn't click. I watched this movie with my siblings, and they're usually the nicer ones when it comes to critiquing a movie, and even they didn't like it. They thought it was dumb as hell. Let me just read the overview on Google because I'm not exactly too sure how to put this movie into my own words. When twin brothers find a mysterious wind-up monkey, a series of outrageous deaths tear their family apart. 25 years later, the monkey begins a new killing spree, forcing the estranged siblings to confront the cursed toy. The twin siblings are portrayed by Theo James, who we might recognize from the Divergent trilogy. The twins growing up never really got along. The older one, by a couple of minutes, always bullied the younger ones, so yeah, that's how they become estranged as they get older. You know, they basically hate each other. But interestingly enough, this monkey that has followed their family is what's keeping them together. And this thing doesn't take any requests, it just kills at random. This creepy looking motherfucking monkey with soulless eyes that seems to always be turning or looking at me in the camera, I mean, that shit was creepy. Dolls in general are just horrifying, okay? They're peak horror, and I love what they do with the monkey here. Theo James is narrating for the first half of this movie because we're seeing their life as kids before they became adults and have to deal with it, because that's really when the plot starts moving along. And to everyone's surprise, in the theater I was in, this is a horror comedy. But I don't think a lot of people recognize that, especially in my theater where I barely heard any chuckles, and I myself was barely cracking a giggle because this movie's attempt at humor with horror was just pretty subpar. And the deaths that happen throughout this movie because of the monkey, I mean, they're like straight out of Final Destination, which of course is getting a sequel. This movie is such a strange redirection for the director and writer Oz Perkins, who also worked on Longlegs. And if you remember my review of Longlegs, that movie became a huge disappointment, a frustrating disappointment of a movie by the end. So when we got to this movie, The Monkey, I was very skeptical because on one hand, I know that the director is gonna have a sense of style here, but I also didn't really know where he was gonna go with the narrative because, well, he didn't exactly do a great job with Longlegs. Unfortunately, this movie just didn't work for me. The humor, the horror, everything about it in general was just so lame. As comedically absurd the deaths were in this movie, I just wasn't giggling. They just didn't really work for me. The humor beyond the monkey stuff also just wasn't really all that funny. It reminded me from like early mid-2000s era type of comedy, and honestly, we're all kind of over it, sorta, if it was done correctly, but it wasn't really done all that great in this movie. The twists and turns with this plot is just total fucking ridiculous. I mean, to a point where I can see where it can be funny, but to me, I just wasn't even cackling. I wasn't giggling. I wasn't laughing. I was just sort of like, okay, I guess I'm willing to go along for the ride with this. I felt nothing for this movie, which is just so sad because the premise itself is fucking awesome. The monkey that can just kill anyone at random the moment you turn it. I mean, this is such an interesting idea. Imagine if he took a more serious route like he did in Longlegs, and there's a psychopath that's killing people with this monkey and someone needs to try to figure out how to stop this person. But instead, this movie just takes a huge 180, becoming this comedic mess that just did not work at all. And I'm sorry if I'm rambling or repeating myself here. I'm just trying to get back into the groove of things as I'm still recovering from this horrible horrible flu. But even as I'm sick, I'm able to critically look at this movie and realize just how boring it really was. The opening of this movie was pretty awesome, okay? It features Adam Scott. Everyone in this movie is giving a pretty good performance, especially Theo James, who of course has played two different people. But holy shit, man, the direction for the twin brothers that he's portraying, it is just... I don't know how to fucking feel about it. I mean, that shit was just, had me like... Look, I love myself a good horror comedy when it's done right. I love myself some absurd, stupid deaths when done right. This movie just seemed to take shortcuts and just didn't really hit the mark. I don't ever see myself revisiting this movie other than for the plot, the idea, the concept of this monkey. I mean, it is really fucking cool, and it's such a waste how it was used in this. There are definitely moments that had me in awe and sucked me in because of the horror aspect of things, but then some character will do some dumb joke or do something that's supposed to be funny, and it just took me right out of the fucking experience. There are so many moments in this movie like that where it wants to be serious, but then it wants to be funny, so tonally it's just all over the place and doesn't know exactly what it wants to be. It's trying to be both, but it's just not working. Like I said, it's probably just me, but holy shit, the horror comedy isn't working. There's a good chance you folks out there will enjoy this movie a whole lot more than I did, and I'm happy for it. You know, if you're able to have a good time and laugh at the absurdity of this film, good on you. Good for you. Yeah, I'm sorry, y'all. This movie just ain't it. Maybe it's just me. Maybe in some way or shape or form this illness is just affecting my ability to enjoy it, but man, did this movie just not click with me at all. All right, that's enough of me. I'll catch you guys next time.
Yeah, that's right, y'all. Yo, live on the mic to infinity.